His name is Michael Westen. He used to be a spy. That's the premise, and that's all you really need to know. Kind of like the A-Team intro, Burn Notice got 45 seconds of exposition at the top of every show. I honestly think that's one of the reasons the show found success, aside from the fact that it was just plain awesome. It was a summer cable show, one that people caught at odd times and on different days. Odds are you didn't make plans to watch it when it first came out, despite the fact that it had a great cast of capable actors with a lot of natural chemistry. That setup at the top of every show, every time, put you right into the action. It told you the basics of the overlying story arc. Michael used to be a spy, he got burned, and now his friends and family are trying to help him figure out why he got blacklisted. It also shows you all the visually appealing aspects of the show. Cool cars, the exotic Miami backdrops, beautiful women, and of course, shootouts and explosions. Wait, what year is this? It sounds more like an 80s action-adventure show in the vein of Magnum P.I. or the A-Team, and in a lot of ways, it is. The USA Network Blue Skies era was a period in the early 2000s up through about 5 or 6 years ago, where their programming was focused on character-driven dramas and offbeat characters. Monk, Psych, Royal Pains, Covert Affairs, In Plain Sight, and of course Burn Notice were all shows that I watched back then, and they all had their merits deserving a deep dive video. But Burn Notice was the first one I clung to. The main thing they all had in common was smart writing. It was during the advent of digital, so you had the benefit of being able to pause live TV for the first time, and the truth is, you needed it. The shows were quick and nimble, and I remember often pausing and going back a few seconds to make sure I got what just happened. In the case of Psych, which I hope to do a video on later, I was always going back to hear the joke a second time to make sure I got it.
Gravedas. Gravedas. Yes. Yes? Yes. I believe it's a soft J.
But I digress. As I said, Burn Notice was the first one I really watched, and I remember distinctly the first episode that I watched. Scatterpoint, Season 2, Episode 5. In my opinion, one of the best episodes. Michael was helping a reformed wheelman for a ring of jewel thieves trying to stay out of trouble and not get killed by the ringleader. It was a good primer for the show. There was always the big serial story about rogue spy masters ruining Michael's life, and then the weekly episode about whoever Michael was helping, the client. I'd later learned that they'd set all this up pretty well in what I now view as one of the best pilot episodes in television history, which aired on June 28, 2007. It was also set at Christmas, so like Die Hard, I often watch the pilot as a Christmas family tradition. Because what says Christmas like shootouts, Miami, and Jeffrey Donovan kicking his next-door neighbor's ass with the aid of a roll of duct tape? Is the show formulaic? Yes. Do the good guys ultimately win? Also yes, most of the time. Do we care? No. The reason we don't care is what I said. It's a well-written show with great storytelling. Michael's a complex character who joined the army because of a bad home life and ended up working on the other side of the world for some 3-letter agency. In addition to the complicated spy life, we get to see Michael's complicated home life, since he got dumped back in Miami after he was burned. His mother is played by Sharon Gless, who has fantastic comedic timing and excellent acting chops. I remember her on Cagney and Lacey when I was a kid, but I don't ever remember that being something I wanted to watch. In this, she shines as a supporting actress and steals almost every scene she's in. The rest of Michael's support staff, now that he's out in the cold, is made up of his trigger-happy ex-girlfriend, ex-IRA bomb expert Fiona, played by the inestimable beauty Gabrielle Anwar. His old friend who used to inform on him to the FBI, Sam Axe, a former Navy SEAL who's now living the life of a womanizing pensioner. Sam's played by Bruce Campbell, an actor everyone knows, but aside from Briscoe County Jr., this has to be my favorite role of his. And yes, I've seen Evil Dead 2. Michael occasionally gets an assist or a problem to solve from his borderline delinquent screw-up of a brother, Nate. For our purposes today, we're basically talking about the early seasons of the show when it was in its prime. I don't want to spoil it for anybody that might want to go back and watch, because the show is still very watchable to this day, even though the constant use of flip phones and computers with tube screens is a reminder that it's starting to get some age on it now. In addition to the regular characters, the show is peppered with notable guest stars throughout. The baddie in the first part of the show is played by the now famous Tricia Helfer in one of her early roles. But you also get appearances by people like John Mahoney, Lucy Lawless, Larry Miller, and Mark Shepard from time to time, plus the occasional pop-in from somebody like Burt Reynolds. Oh yeah, Paul the Wine Guy's in it too, for all you Friends geeks. There's lots of that guy from that thing vibes throughout the whole show. And while we're on the topic of guest stars, I should also mention the recurring characters that I would like to have seen more, namely Barry and Lucy. Lucy was in the pilot episode and made 1 or 2 other appearances that I can remember, but she didn't show up much. She's a former associate of Michael that helped him set up his business of helping people. China Chow was the actress's name there. And Barry was Michael's money laundering friend. Barry was a super likable character providing some needed comic relief in the early seasons, played by Paul Ty, and he's one of my favorite side characters in the show. By the way, Paul, if I said your name wrong, I'm sorry. I said earlier, it's like the A-Team, and that's the show I compare it to the most. It's sleeker and more sophisticated, but it's got a lot of similarities. A small team of experts wanted by the government, helping people. Sam's like Face, who loves to use his constant alias, Chuck Finley. Fiona has the dual role of being super good looking, but is also a specialist who kicks ass, kind of like Mr. T. There's recurring baddies like Colonel Decker from the A-Team, and Michael is a smart guy who can throw a punch like Hannibal. All that, and it's just fun. In the era before streaming, when CSI and NCIS were your main options for action on television, Burn Notice was a story that had heart. It kept you engaged, and it gave you characters to root for. Also, like all the great adventure shows of the 80s, Burn Notice has another character with almost superhuman status, the Dodge Charger. The black 73 Charger with white leather interior was one of the main characters in the show, and it saved Michael's life on several occasions. The car was left to him by his formerly estranged and now deceased father, and was apparently his prized possession. And just like the A-Team van, the General Lee, or Kit from Knight Rider, the car helped make the series, because every guy watching the show wanted a girl like Fiona, a car like the Charger, and well, abs like Michael's. One way Burn Notice was unlike the A-Team and throwaway action shows is that it really makes you think. It points out the gray areas in service of country and military life. The good guys aren't always good. The bad guys don't always have clear-cut choices. It's easy for the lines to get blurred and for people to lose focus on what they're fighting for. We get to go on that journey with Michael through all the gray areas a spy has to navigate. We find out that the line between hero and criminal is razor thin, but Michael walks it in a way that keeps us engaged and on his side most of the time. Jeffrey Donovan has never been my favorite actor, but Michael is one of my favorite characters, and that speaks well of his abilities, I think. Michael's a badass, and Donovan deserves credit for that. Unfortunately, in the later seasons, it would fall into some of the same traps that other shows ultimately do. The will they, won't they of Michael and Fiona eventually goes away. The mystery of Michael's exile is dealt with a little too quickly, removing some of the show's original identity, and then they introduced Jesse, another Burn spy, who, like Frankie in the 5th season of A-Team, was a desperate attempt to rejuvenate the show. As an aside, I'm so glad Battlestar Galactica ended at the 4-season mark. Some days I wish all shows ended there. Other classics I love, like Friends, House MD, the aforementioned Psych, Growing Pains, Who's the Boss, they were all great until the start of season 5. I say it's better to burn out than fade away, but nobody asked me. Hey, if you loved Burn Notice, let me know by leaving a comment, and if you like content like this or want to hear me give my take on other shows, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.